I'm going to be making a really wonderful Italian cookie called Sardinian orange and raisin cookies. These are traditionally served at weddings, but I make them all year long. They have such a beautiful, vibrant orange flavor. Please enjoy the video. I hope you get to make these soon. They're so wonderful. Have a great day and ciao. Now I'm going to add 1/4 cup of granulated sugar. And I'm going to add 1/4 cup of brown sugar. Always make sure you pack your brown sugar down. I'm going to add about 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Let me blend this together, and then I'm going to add some orange zest to this. So I just need about 1 tablespoon of my orange zest. It's really important to get a really nice microplaner or have a really good grater on hand to get a really good zest. The zest is the skin of citrus fruit, whether it's orange or lemon or lime. And you never want to go beyond the whitish part of the fruit. That's called the pith, and it gets very bitter once you get to that point. Don't forget the zest that hides underneath your microplane if you're using one, or even a box grater. So I think this is going to be it. And hold on to that orange because you're going to be using the juice. So in this goes to our flour mixture. So I think I would definitely mix my orange zest with my hands. It's really wet and I really want to get it distributed. Now it's time to add the fat. So there's 1/2 cup of canola oil. I suppose you could use a very light olive oil if you'd like. And then we want 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. And I let my butter sit out for a long time. We're going to work this into the flour mixture. So 2 tablespoons is just about here. I follow the notches on my butter. But I want to take this now and cut small pieces into my mixture. Let me try and toss this around just to get it going. There, now I think I can work with it more. And also you can always use your hands. I actually prefer that. But if you were using the 2 butter knives, you would sort of crisscross, and that breaks up your butter, your fat. There we go. This is really going to break it up now. Don't worry if this seems really crumbly, because we're going to be adding some sweet Marsala wine to this and some orange blossom flower water and a little bit of milk. There, I'm getting a really good crumble on this. This is what I want. So this is a sweet Marsala wine. You buy either dry or sweet. The dry is made for things like veal Marsala, chicken Marsala, but the sweet is really more for desserty things, not only to use as ingredients, but also to drink. I usually like to spend a little bit more money than the real cheap version. This bottle was about $8. It's not a huge bottle, but it will really last you a long time. And here's the orange blossom water. Let me get a little close up for you. It truly is very easy to find now, and I know that you can probably find it on Amazon or something similar. It lasts for a long time. I don't refrigerate it. I just put it back on the shelf. If you can't find this, you could always use a little bit also of an orange liqueur like a Grand Marnier, or you could just add a little bit of orange juice to substitute this, but it really gives it that beautiful Mediterranean flavor, and it's not expensive. The bottle might be $3 or $4 or so. So go out and get some, keep it on your shelf. So I'm putting in 3 tablespoons of my sweet Marsala, and I'll put 3 tablespoons of milk in. The orange blossom water is going to be later for the glaze. This is really going to bring your cookie to a certain level where it will definitely taste like something that you might eat in Italy. I just have 2% milk because that's what I drink, and that's going to be fine. We have plenty of fat in there, and there'll be 3 of these. And now we're going to grab our raisins and pop them right into that well. I'm going to measure out 2/3 cup of raisins. I'm going to use a dark raisin, but quite often in Italy, they do use a golden raisin, or they're called sultanas, and I really love those too. So I'm approximating, and I have about 2/3 in here. Don't worry if you're just a little bit over. So now it's time to mix all of this up. And my rule of thumb is I know I'm ready most of the time, depends on the recipe, but most of the time when you can grab a piece of the dough and it stays in one piece, because you're going to have to roll this out. The dry ingredients and the liquid ingredients all have to blend together well and make it so that you can form a cookie. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to wrap it up tight in some saran wrap, and it's going in the fridge for about 20 minutes. We want to chill this up. So while our dough is chilling in the refrigerator, why don't we make the glaze topping? So that orange that you saved, we're going to cut this in half now, and I'm going to juice it. We only need about 1.5 tablespoons of orange juice. Once again, this is the great thing about a navel orange. You can get a lot of good juice out of it. So we need 1.5 tablespoons. There's one, and there's the other half. And I would save this just in case you need to make a double batch of frosting. Sometimes people love that extra glaze on their cookies. Now comes the orange blossom water. When I make a glaze too for a cake or cookies, I play around with it too. Sometimes it's too wet, and that's going to just drip right off of your cookie or your cake. So sometimes I add a little bit more of my powdered sugar, which is coming up. This calls for about 1/4 teaspoon. And I'm just going to play it by ear here with my teaspoon. And that's a little bit too much. So let me get about half of that out. This truly smells like an orange blossom. If you've never used this before, you'll just love it. It's just absolutely fabulous. Now here comes a powdered sugar, and I'm going to add about 1/2 cup. Let's see what happens after that. See if we need a little bit more. So I'm going to grab a whisk and get this whisked up. This is a really nice thickness, and once it sits for a little while too, it's going to thicken up a little. So like I said, you can play around with it. If you find it's too thick, it hardens up too much, you can always add a little splash of your orange juice to this. Let me show you some equipment I have on hand, and this will make your cookies consistent. They're traditionally in a square, but you could definitely use a ravioli cutter, or you could use a cookie cutter, a biscuit cutter. There's all different ways of doing these. Or you can just methodically measure them out with a ruler and just make your own cuts. So here's some equipment that I have on hand that you could use to cut these cookies out with. These cookies are a low flat cookie that we're going to glaze. So I think they'd be really beautiful with a ravioli cutter. These aren't very expensive to purchase. You can find them online, or you can find them in a lot of gourmet cookware shops. This is a smaller one, and it's also got the little ridges here. I also have just an old-fashioned pastry cutter. So this is when you want to measure them out the way you want. You might not care if they're inconsistent, that's up to you. I also always use a biscuit cutter when I want to make something kind of pretty. This is very inexpensive and easy to find. And then I recently obtained a pastry cutter. You can expand it, and you can see these cookies are usually about 2 inches or 3 inches, and you can set this, and there's a little screw here. And now when I roll this along the dough, I'm going to get some very consistent sizes. They won't be off. They'll all be exactly the same. I also purchased this online, and they're not that expensive. It's worth maybe spending about $17 to $20 on this for a higher quality one. So let's see how our cookies come out. I'm going to make them a few different ways. So it's time to taste one of the Sardinian orange and raisin cookies. The glaze is set. It only really sat, I would say, for maybe 15 minutes at the most. These look wonderful, so let's give it a taste. These are so flavorful. They're not overly sweet. As you can see, let me get a better shot of that. The texture of the cookie is not really crumbly, and it's not tough at all. It just has a beautiful bite to it. These would be so wonderful with a good cup of tea or a cappuccino or something light after dinner. I hope you enjoyed the video. You'll find the ingredients listed below in the description box, and you'll find the full recipe at My Italian Kitchen by Chef Diane Mantica on Facebook. Bye.